through this, the whole 9 months of this pregnancy, I think a lot of the reasons that you guys see me still pushing and really working, because I have this man right here telling me I can do it, and we all need to hear that. So I'm so excited for you guys to be able to hear tips from him tonight. So Arnauld, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, Meg, appreciate all of you guys being on. I always enjoy speaking with the team and, just sharing the things that work. One of my favorite authors is John Maxwell, and he's got a lot of books, and in a lot of his books, he talks about rules and laws. And after working with entrepreneurs for the best part of the past 10 years, there is certain laws that start to emerge. There are certain patterns that after a while become proven, empirically proven, and after a while really become laws. And I think it's so important for any entrepreneur to really understand those laws to be successful. And one of the first laws is this one that I'm going to share a screen with, if you can see this. And one of the things that I know Meg and Kirk and a lot of you believe in is making a clear distinction between being interested and being committed, right? So there's two different things. And obviously it says there, when you're interested in doing something, you do it when it's convenient. When you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results. And I think it is so important for us to truly understand whether we're interested or we're committed, and to be very honest with ourselves, okay? Many times as an entrepreneur, when you get started, your Beachbody business, you might have lost some weight through a challenge group. Meg might have helped you with some issues that you were facing. You might have followed her. And here you are, you're now part of the group, and now you want to pay it forward. And initially, there is the excitement, right? If you guys have heard me share my marathon story, there is the initial excitement where you're committed to it. The rubber hasn't met the road. You're just running on sheer passion and energy. And when the rubber meets the road is truly when people start becoming either interested or being committed. Now, you're on this call because we know you're committed. And part of it is we've seen you do some things that require real commitment. Part of it is you telling us that you are committed. But at the end of the day, time will tell the difference, right? Time will be the biggest differentiator. So we just got done with Superstar Day. And at Superstar Day, obviously, we've got all the 15-star diamonds. They all started like basically brand new coaches, emerald coaches, 10, 12, 13-star diamond coaches or whatever. They didn't start that way, but they worked up to that 15-star. And one of the things that is common among all of them is what I don't have in skill, I'm made up by numbers. What I didn't have in skill early, I had to make it up by numbers and sheer hard work, right? And sometimes we are so focused on just that overnight success that we forget what truly happens, behind closed doors. Now, you're on this call because you're all pushing for one goal. And I love the concept of, putting everybody together and everybody just kind of pushing one another. And I can see some of you actually have achieved that goal. I think Jamie already is a diamond coach. Congrats, Jamie. It's good to see you. And most of you are pushing towards that. So I want to talk about that, right? And I want to start with a story about being honest with ourselves. Sometimes you need someone like Meg that believes in you. And part of believing in you is calling out our BS, okay? It's calling out the things that we're either telling ourselves that are sabotaging us, or the things that we're sharing with her without truly believing in them, right? It's very easy, like I said, to share, hey, this is what I want to do. It's another thing to do it, right? So let me take you back about a year and a half ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had just gotten done, doing a leadership meeting. And in the process of doing that, before that, I had some one-on-ones. If you haven't participated in either a leadership meeting or a one-on-one, I highly encourage it. All of us are always on the road and doing these one-on-ones. And so one of the things that we do with these one-on-ones, literally he's one-on-one. You don't have Facebook, you don't have email, you don't have your family around who are really able to dive deep into your life and business. And so I was having this conversation with this leader. His name is Daryl Williams. I don't know if you know him, Meg. He's from Tennessee. And Daryl basically had been stuck for a long time at 4-Star Diamond. He was fairly satisfied at 4-Star Diamond. But as I talked to him a little bit more, I started finding all this dissatisfaction. So from the outside, we're saying one story. From the inside, we're feeling differently. Does that happen to anybody else? I know it does to me, right? We just put on that barrier and we just say, I'm good. I'm doing great. Look at my Facebook. Everything is hunky-dory. It's phenomenal. Inside, there is something different. Okay, let me stop there. As leaders, you're going to be required to be honest with yourself. I ask you to be honest with yourself because we know ourselves. We know ourselves. We know what we do well. We know our flaws as well, right? And I was having this heart-to-heart moment with Daryl where he's telling me all these great things. And then I look at his business and I basically called him out on the carpet. I said, you've been a 4-Star Diamond now for I think it was 18 months to 2 years, right? I mean, it was a plateau, okay? And again, you're pushing for Diamond. 4-Star might seem up there, but 4-Star for 2 years is a real plateau. It was an obstacle that he had. And so with Daryl, I had to kind of maneuver gently around it. So it took me 30 minutes to just build that rapport. And finally I said, Daryl, you're in your 30s and you're retired. You're retired. You're not doing what you were doing before. Is that what you want? I mean, you just want to sit there and just collect a check or whatever? Is that what you want to do? Because that's exactly what your activities are showing me, right? And so that conversation, you need to have yourself. I had it with Daryl. He's a good friend. I can share this openly because I'll tell you what came out of that, right? Some good things actually came out of that. But we have to have that conversation with ourselves, right? So we're saying, yes, I want to pay off that debt. I want to bring my spouse home. I want to take more than one vacation every 2 years with my family. I want to be able to take my kid to that Montessori school and pay for it, right? I want to change people's life. We're saying all this stuff. What I would urge you to do is to say, is what I'm feeling happening on the outside? Is what I'm wanting, am I making it happen? Am I making the sacrifice that it's going to take? Because sacrifice, it's exactly what that's going to take, right? You're going to have to do something other, right? In other words, a body that is at rest stays at rest. A body that's in movement keeps moving, right? You can't be in the middle. I say it this way. If you're on the highway, you're either driving or you're parked. You're driving or you're parked. What we don't realize, most of us are in the middle. We're driving with our brakes on, and that actually takes more effort. And it just kind of erodes our psyche, right? It erodes our psyche because we feel like we're driving, but we're really parked. And we've got these expectations that are here where really we end up over here, right? And that's what he was doing for the longest time. He was just driving with his brakes on, just kind of going through the motions. And I agree. He had 3 kids, actually 4 with his daughter that was born. He lived in a small house. His wife was retired, by the way, so she was home. He just didn't have time, or maybe he did not make time, right? So after about a good, vigorous conversation for 10 to 15 minutes, where at first he wasn't happy, okay? And that's part of what I have to do. Part of my job is to tell you what you're not doing well in the hopes that you can do better in the future, right? So I said, when was the last time a coach of yours became a diamond? And of course, it was 2 years ago. And I said, how long has it taken you to develop a diamond on average? About 90 to 120 days, right? That's about where it's at, okay? And then back then, that was pretty much, how long it took. And I said, okay, so here's my challenge. You have been so stuck that you cannot start jogging. Forget about walking. You need to run out of here like a bat out of hell. You need to start running so hard so that you start regaining momentum that you've lost. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, in a year, we're going to talk. you'll still be at the same place, right? So it starts with you. It starts with what you do yourself. Number two, what I want you to do, I want you to identify 2 people you're going to help, and you're not going to help them in 90 days, not in 60 days, but in a month. We're going to do it in a month, okay? You're going to like literally sit with them and work with them and be on top of it, but you're also going to work your business because you need to set that example, right? And so he went home and he taught, and he basically, after a while, like, the stages that he went through was anger, okay, because he wasn't very happy with me. And then he kind of went into sadness because he was like, yeah, I've got all these goals and I've got all these objectives and I've got these things that really are near and dear to my heart and to my family's heart that I'm really not executing against. And then he went into hope that, you know what, I have a chance. Every day I start at 0. Every day I'm starting at 0. Every day I have a chance to win the day. Every week I have a chance to win the week. And every month I have a chance to win the month, right? But he starts exactly where I am right now, right? So here's what he went into, okay? So I want you to pay attention to this because I'm going to come back later and ask you what you would do if you were Daryl. If you're in Daryl's situation, and here's the nice thing that I know. Not a single one of you are in his situation. And I'm sharing this story for a reason, right? None of you are in his situation, right? You're most likely way ahead of him, but think about what you could do based on the results that he got, okay? So let me talk about what he actually did. These are like what he did, how he executed against it, right? So he agreed to take massive action. He said, I'm going to take massive action. So I wrote down exactly the things that he did, okay? Number one, he treated his business like a business. He set up business hours. Before that, he basically was working from home. Okay, so he was a retired police officer, was able to get back, come back home, which is great. But part of being home, he had 0 schedule, right? He didn't really control his time. In talking with you, I see some young moms, Megan, right? You're probably at home. Maybe some of you are working full time. You're trying to figure out when to fit in your business, right? Some of you are extremely disciplined and already doing this, but he set up his business hours. That's number one. Number two, he used to work from home. And part of working from home is all the kids would be there. And by the way, he homeschooled these kids. So the kids were home. He saw them all the time. He never had time for himself, right? So he changed his work environment. And I said, okay, he lived in a small town. I said, do you guys have a Starbucks or some coffee shop you can go to? That's what he did. For 3 hours every day that he was working, Monday to Friday, not the weekend or the Sabbath, but from Monday to Friday, he actually went to this coffee shop. And at that coffee shop, he focused on what he calls the non-negotiables of the business. And a lot of that was power hour, and he was following up, okay? So he just sat there, and that's all he did for 3 hours, right? He didn't get on calls with his coaches. He didn't do anything. He just focused on his own business, right? That had a major impact. So change work environment. If your work environment is working, what else can you do to optimize it, right? Because he really is in those minute, small details that you start really focusing in on what you're doing. That's number two. Number three, as he's changed that work environment, he made an agreement with Tracy, his wife. He said, Tracy, I am ready to make this happen. It's gonna, and here's part of the agreement. I need some time. I need some time. And I'm telling you, this goal is not just my goal, it's a goal for our family. I know that it's going to help our family. I know that long-term, it's exactly where I need to be, what I need to be doing. So he made that agreement, which made it easier for him to take those 3 hours, right, during the day and actually really focus on his business and then, kind of really spend more time building his business, right? I think that agreement is extremely important. Was probably number one. I would place it as number one. Number four, he changed his expectations. Okay, he changed his expectations and he kept them real, right? Because his expectation before was, I'm going to work the business whenever I can. He went from, I'm going to work the business whenever I can to, I have to work this business at least 3 hours a day, right? See the change there? It changed from like, I'm going to work it whenever I can to, I have to work my business 3 hours a day, right? That's an agreement. That's when you put the stake in the ground and saying, I'm going to make it happen, right? Number 5, he worked an extra 3 hours every day, right? That's important. So those things right there combined, all those mean really discipline and hard work, right? Discipline and hard work. And what I talked about earlier, it's interesting that it was the same thing that the 15-star diamonds all shared is early on, what I didn't have in skill, I replaced by hard work, right? Now, many of us want to get all the skills like right now, right here, right? We want to understand it all. We want to be able to get it, understand social media marketing, understand placement, all this stuff. Then we get going. I hate to tell you, there's never the right time. There's never a right time, right? The right time is now, right? You've got to have a bias towards action. So here's what happened. Daryl identified 2 coaches. Those 2 coaches he worked with intensely, right? All those things that he asked of himself, he did it. He asked them to do himself, right? Themselves, right? They said, I've got you. I need you to do these, right? So let me stop there, okay? So just think, okay? I haven't asked you yet, but just think, what are some of the things? What is the slight edge? What is the extra thing that you can do that will help you optimize your day? That will help you maybe get a little bit more out of your day? That will help you maybe convert customers quicker to become coaches. That will help you bring the business opportunity better or easier, right? What is that? What is that one thing that you can bring to your business? I want you to write it down right now, okay? I want you to write down some ideas of what are some things that I can do that maybe I kind of do, but I could do a little bit more of. You know exactly what those are. Meg knows exactly what she has to do. You should know exactly what those are, okay? So I'm not going to ask you yet to share those, but after you guys, okay? So here's what happens. Start working with these coaches. The first 5 people he asked to work with, they said no. You're like, whoa, like I'm not going to do it, right? Does that happen to you? Remember when you first started as a coach, you're like, yeah, my best friend, my high school teammate, my niece, my whatever. These were the people that you knew they were going to be Beachbody coaches, right? And how did that work out for you, right? Like most of them weren't ready. Some of them now are Beachbody coaches after seeing you, engage, but most of them weren't ready, right? And so Daryl went to these people that are used to him working a certain way, and they were like, no way. Not because of him, but because of what he had been doing before that, right? He didn't have the high expectations, so they were like you've been speaking like English to me, now you're speaking Russian to me. I don't understand what you're saying, right? You're asking me to work 3 hours more a day. You're asking me to do all these power hours and all that. I'm not going to do that, right? The first 5 didn't do it, right? The last 2 did it. The last 2 did it. Remember, we challenged him. It has to be within a month, right? One of them did it within 7 weeks. So it was a month and a week, right? And then another one took a month and a half. Within a week from one another, they went diamond, right? And Daryl went from 4-star to 6-star. He broke through the ceiling. He had been stuck at 4-star, and there was this ceiling where it's like, I'm there. I'm like, this is my ceiling. I can't go past that, right? And that's the thing. In John Maxwell's books, he talks about the law of the lid, right? And if your lid is here, you're going to sabotage yourself to just do activities that will take you up through here only, right? So he had to break through that lid. The way he broke through that lid, he needed to find someone that believes in him, but also someone that's going to call him out on what he was not doing and then give him hope on what is possible, right? So he went from 4 to 6-star diamond, right? And that happened as a result of truly him doing the things that he needed to do, right? And hearing some things that he doesn't want to hear, right? Part of this business, you're so excited, everything is great, but I'm telling you, 95.5, okay? 5% is the recognition, is the national wake-up call, is the top 10 trips, is the national, it's summit, it's teaching a workshop, it's all these great things. 95% is the power hour, it's the no's, it's some of the rejection, Maybe some of your customers saying, absolutely, I'm not going to do that, right? The 95 is your family going, what are you doing? You're wasting your time, Kelly. Don't do this. We've got a good business. You don't need to be doing this on top of that, right? Jamie, I handle the finances. I don't need you to provide. I can do this on my own, right? It's all that 95% that weighs us down. But I'm telling you that 5%, okay, Meg can run around, run around her living room telling you how exciting those 5% are. Just that 5%, right? So you need to realize that part of what you're going to do is that 95% that will yield you to that 5%, right? So what does that 95% look like? Okay, unmute yourselves, and I want you to share a few of the things, okay? What are some of the things that you wrote down that make up part of that 95%, okay? What is it that you can do extra? What is that slight edge you can bring to your day, right? So Kylie has unmuted herself, so why don't you share?
I think one of the things that I really need to do is a little bit more in my new coach support and training to really get them started right.
Okay, so onboarding, getting your coaches started right. Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. What are some other ones?
I need to work more on doing free groups. It's something that I never really do. I always worry about challenge groups, and I need to really introduce people to the world of Beachbody and just accountability and me with free groups too.
Okay, free groups onboarding. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kylie. Appreciate that. Who has some different ones?
Follow-ups. I say follow-ups 100%. The art is in the follow-up. No one says yes on the first time, guys. No one. So you have to follow up. That's going to give you that slight edge for sure.
That's a great one. Matter of fact, I'm glad you brought it up. Every single one of the 15-star diamonds said no at the first. All of them. Every single one of them. So who's that 15-star that you need to go back to? That could be your 15-star. That could be one of those. Thanks, Meg. Others?
Don't be shy.
Real quick. So mine is just getting out of my head. I think about it too much before I reach out to people. So reaching out and following up. And it's just me worrying what they're going to think. So I need to get out of my head and just kind of go for it. Kind of how I did with my fitness journey was I didn't think about it. I just kind of went for it. So.
Thank you. There's no right time like right now. You'll never be perfect. The right time is right now. So great learnings, by the way. And that's part of how you become an expert too. I've been reading some Malcolm Gladwell, and one of the things that he talks about is in order for you to be an expert, you need to do something 10,000 times. 10,000 times until you become an expert, right? So part of you reaching out, talking to people, having those conversations, that's part of you becoming an expert. So every time you don't do it, you're further away from being an expert, right? So I think that's extremely important. Others? Rachel?
For me, it was a lot of what everybody has already said. I wrote down follow-ups, focusing, and I have a tendency to get to bed later than I want, and that causes me to sleep later. So going to bed an extra hour earlier, waking up earlier to help me get focused and get my stuff done.
Awesome. Absolutely. I think part of that really is, optimizing your work environment like Daryl did, and part of that work environment, you don't have an office, it's you and the computer. And the computer needs someone operational as well. That's rested and ready to make it happen. So good one. Last one. Who else has one more?
I have one. Can you see me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes.
I think my biggest thing is that I get so nervous about not presenting it beautifully at the first go. Like I always feel like I'm going to say something and they're going to find a reason to be like, what the hell? No, I don't want to do that. And I get so anxious about that part. And I'm trying to break through that. Like just focus on like the positive, awesome things that I've experienced personally and just keep throwing that at everyone, and hopefully someone will catch on. And it's working, but it's, you know, it's hard because I get so nervous about like them, because any direct sales kind of situation that we're presenting can be so negative at first. So I think that is my hurdle that I've always struggled with getting over.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, and let me say this, Kate, that everybody still kind of struggles with that sometimes. I think, you know, you grow your muscle the more you share it, right? I think part of it is the posture muscle. You know, part of it is the fact that, Kate, would you ever be involved with something that wasn't legal? And part of it is just growing yourself, right? Would you ever be involved with something that you wouldn't want to refer other people to? Would you ever want to keep all these gold that you had, right? If you have this gold and you can't handle all of it, would you want to share that with your friends and family, right? In the way you're positioning, I think it is so important for you to always, number one, be working on yourself, but number two, really put yourself in those uncomfortable positions, because you're only going to get better from doing that, right? And I realize it's easier said than done, but really at the end of the day, you have to do it. You know, this past weekend I went to a show, and it was a comedy show. And I think comedy is one of the hardest things ever, right? I don't know if any of you have watched the Chappelle show on Comedy Central, but Dave Chappelle was the comedian, and he was just hilarious, right? He was just absolutely mind-blowing good. And one of the things that I've learned about comedians and performers in general is they do it whether they feel the fear or not. Most of them actually are trembling before they come onto stage. Bruce Springsteen talks about how he starts sweating from the palms. His voice starts disappearing. He needs water. But the moment he hits that stage, things flow, right? And he's done it because he's done it so many times. And I realize every time, like Katie's saying, when you're sharing on Facebook, that's your stage. When you're getting on that phone, that's when the rubber meets the road. When it's time to do that follow-up with that person that told you maybe, that's another stage. That's when you feel like you have to perform. But the more you do it, the better off you're going to be, okay? Let me end with this. I think it's extremely important in these next 18 days, okay? October 8th is what you guys have committed, to advance to your next rank, right? So either 1-star diamond or diamond, right? I think it is so important to put yourself between a rock and a hard place. And I think it is so important to have just one goal in mind. I think it's extremely important also to take everything that you've got and put it aside. Let me tell you about one of my first mentors that I actually met this week, that I saw this weekend after many years. His name is Anselm Sadiki. He's actually a gentleman originally from the Congo in Central Africa, and he came here as a refugee. And when he came here, he didn't speak English. And so one of the things that he had to do was to go to class, and he had a translator there that he basically had to pay to translate, right? Either during class or after class. He somehow managed to not only graduate with honors, okay, someone that didn't speak English, but also when he graduated, he got what is called a presidential internship, where he started working for the school as an administrator. And he's one of the reasons why that I went to school at the school that I went to. And so once he got done with that presidential internship, he wanted to apply to graduate school. Okay. Now, we didn't go to the best of school. Okay. Some of you went to some prestigious schools. We went to Idaho State University. Okay. State school, middle of nowhere, Idaho. Really good school, really good programs, but it's not a top-notch school. So guess where he applied to for graduate school. And I remember late nights I would come by his office because I just loved listening to him. You know those people that you get around and you're instantly lifted up, instantly inspired? That's the kind of guy that he was. And I remember one time getting into his office, and it was about 9 p.m. Everybody had left, and he was the only one in his office. And he was working on his application letter. He was writing a letter about his life, where he's been, and why he should be admitted to this school. And I remember going to him and saying, okay, so what school are you going to? Are you going to, Boise State, which is like right next door, like 4 hours away? Where are you applying to? And he says, I'm applying to Columbia University. It's an Ivy League school. And at first I went, you're serious? Okay, so where else have you applied? He was like, I haven't applied anywhere else. Are you serious? You're from Idaho State University, and trust me, you've done some incredible things, but you want to go to Columbia University, one of the top 5 Ivy League schools. Some of you might have been there, but Ivy League is like the standard when it comes to universities, right? And you only applied to one. And I said, okay, all right. I mean, I trust in you, I believe in you, and what happens if you don't get in? I won't go to graduate school. See what he did there? He put all his eggs in that one basket, but he was so focused on it, there was no turning back. Literally, it's like burning the ships. It's jumping off the mountain and building your wings on the way down. And so here he is, he's writing out, his essay, he's meeting with everybody, the school is trying to help him out and all that stuff. And actually this weekend when I spoke with him, is when I actually found out how huge that application process was. So I think they have about 7,000 applicants, okay? 7,000 applicants to that school, okay? They only take 10%. Only take 10%. And here he was, Anselm, from Idaho State University applying there, okay? And he's applying to only one school. And trust me, many of us were telling him, apply to all these other schools. There's other really good schools that you can be a part of. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he applied there. Guess what? He was one of the 700. Not only that, out of the 700, I find that only 70 of them ended up. So he did a master's in international relations. He said, only 10% of those 700 would be admitted to this specialized master program at Columbia University. Guess what? He was part of the 70. Then he goes on and says, only 7 people out of 7,000 applicants, get a full ride scholarship. Guess what? He finished 2 years at Columbia University and got a full ride scholarship in the degree that he wanted, completely paid for, right? And so now he travels the world. Literally, he's that guy that you see on CNN traveling the world in peacekeeping missions and helping governments and doing all these crazy stuff, right? And that's because of the grind, of those long hours, of just the naysayers, including myself. Some of his best friends that were telling him, you're crazy out of your mind. See, on your way to achievement, when you're doing something incredible, you're going to get naysayers. You're going to get people that think you're crazy. And they don't do that because they don't like you. They do that because they actually love you and care about you. Because they want you to have a plan B. They want you to have a plan C. What they don't realize is they're diluting what you're doing and they're taking away from the focus that you have. Here's what I want you guys to be, okay? I want you guys to be that person that is the 7 out of the 7,000, that is the 7 out of the 70, that is the 70 out of the 700. And what it's going to take you guys being 100% in. 100% in, because when you start thinking about it, okay, we're not applying to Columbia University, but this is your Columbia University that you're pushing towards, right? And while Anselm, my friend, got to Columbia University, it opened up literally the world to him. It opened up the world to him. He's traveling all over the place. He was telling me about meeting with these heads of state and ambassadors. I'm going, you're the same guy that we're sitting down with and you're writing that application, right? I see Diamond or Star Diamond as what opens it up for you guys. okay? And we have 18 days to be all in. We have 18 days to make it happen. We have 18 days to take out the distractions and to be serious about what we're doing and to not look back and to jump off and build our wings on the way down. I know you guys can do it. I look forward to celebrating you. I know you've got a great mentor with Meg. I appreciate the time, Meg, that I've got to jump on this. Let's play all out. Let's make it happen. We've got 18 days, and I can't wait to celebrate you guys and see you as brand new Diamond coaches. So, Meg, back to you.
Oh, I love you. That was perfect. And guys, he was talking about calling each other out on the BS. He calls me out on my BS all the time. Like, I had hit a plateau, and I'm always very honest and open with you guys. And I was letting my mindset get in the way at the beginning of this year. And I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, Arnauld, so I'm kind of satisfied where I'm at. And he's like, that is BS. I know you, Meg. I know you want more. And between him and Kirk, it was like, all right, I'm going. I'm refocusing, So do I have the permission to call you guys out on your BS? Do I? Absolutely. No one's going to get upset? Okay, good. Who is 100% in? Who is 100% in? All right, we got 18 days, guys. 18 days to make something huge happen. When I finally made the decision to go diamond and understood it, and I think you guys all understand it at this point, it was like nothing was getting in my way. You have to have those blinders on. And like Arnauld said, there's going to be family members that are going to, maybe say you're spending too much time on the business. Or, let's maybe focus on something else. I don't want you putting all of your time in that, or whatever they say. And just tell them, be open with them, have that talk that we've talked about before, and just say, I need 18 days to really focus, and I'm going to be doing more than what I usually do. But I know I can make this goal happen. I know it's going to happen. So Arnauld, you're amazing. Do you guys have any questions or anything that you want to ask him, or just to thank him, or anyone? You want to unmute yourselves and say thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnauld.
Thank you, guys.
You're amazing. You really are. Like, I'm very fired up right now to just go into more now. So thank you so much, guys. I recorded this just because I want to make sure that you guys